All right. So, thank you guys for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. I know that there's other things you could be doing on a Wednesday night, but I'm glad that you're here. Tonight, we're going to be talking about living in fullness. And one of the things that looks like is attaining your destiny. I know it sounds kind of, I want to say weirdly spiritual, because it's not even that. It's like it sounds to me like an action movie, right? Like I reach my destiny. But for me, when it comes to destiny, one of the main things is purpose. I believe that we were all created with a purpose to solve a problem. And when we don't fulfill our purpose, we leave the world with a problem. The way that can be demonstrated in scripture would be when Saul was meant to kill all of the Amalekites. He didn't. He left some of them to be alive. Fast forward some few decades later, when David is running from Saul and he is living in Ziklag, it's the Amalekite raiders that kidnap all of David's and his men's families, takes all their stuff. Fortunately, because God wanted them done, God sent David with his men after the Amalekites, and they end up rescuing their families and all their possessions. But the fact is, Saul was the one who was supposed to take out all of the Amalekites, but he didn't, and because of that, he left David with a problem. If you turn on the news for 5 minutes, you'll find that there are more than enough problems to go around. I believe things like the children that are still starving in Africa and in other countries. I know we always say Africa because it's the most prevalent that we've seen, but we have people starving in this country. And I believe that people have shied away from their purpose because once they started to feel like they were called to do it, either somebody or something would get in the way and discourage them, or they would start out but find out it's a lot harder than they expected, or when they look at the goal, it just seems too daunting, and so they shy away and they give up before they start. But your purpose doesn't have to be big. It can be something simple. It can be something as simple as just saying to somebody that you know, or just showing to somebody that you know love. Maybe showing something to somebody who doesn't get a lot of love, showing them love. What happens is people go through this world and they don't experience the love that they're supposed to experience. And I don't want to get all fluffy on this, but I'm just talking about how we as humans need to love and be loved. That's just the way we were designed. And so if we don't have that, then there's a part of us that goes missing. There's a part of us that doesn't connect. There's a part of us that doesn't work properly. And so when somebody gets the chance to experience love in a healthy, whole, and proper way, I guess you could say, they understand that they are made for greater things. They understand that they can actually attain things. And when I say love, I want you to picture whatever it is that you're called to do, and I want you to picture how you're going to do it. But the first and foremost thing is everything that you do has to be with love. And it's not love is priority number one. It's love is that actual clipboard upon which you hold your list of priorities. It's your checklist is on this clipboard that is love. So every action you take, every word you say, it has to start with love. So I don't want to get too far into this. Actually, what I want to do is so I gave all of you guys candles. I would like to make this, not caveat, what's the word? Disclaimer. If you're not capable of handling a candle, please don't participate in this exercise because I don't want any of you catching fire. Anyway, if this is, okay. If this is my passion, and this is my purpose, and this is what I'm living out in my life, so often we start to think that it's not humble if I'm going to let my light shine. It's not humble if I'm going to actually go out there and attain what it is that I'm called to do. Somebody explained to me recently that it's almost as if we as Christians believe that a star football player should, at the last minute, throw the game because, I need to be humble before the Lord. I mean, like, nobody would ever expect that from a sports or like from an athlete, right? So why do we as believers, when we're looking to be great at music, or we're looking to have a great ministry that has lots of people in it, or that reaches a lot of people, or whatever it is, why do we suddenly think that the rule doesn't apply to us? You know, there's a joke that I love that I've shared with some of you before, but these two scientists are standing before the Lord in a few hundred years from now, and they're looking up at God and they're saying, hey, look, you had a great run, but we don't need you anymore. And God is saying, really? And the scientists say, yeah, everything that you've done, we can do now. Science has figured it all out. God's like, okay, well, let's put this to a test. And so the two scientists say, okay, what do you have in mind? And God says, can you make man? And yeah, of course we can. He's like, all right, well, let's do it the old-fashioned way. So they're like, okay. So they go grab a shovel, they walk outside, and right as they strike the ground, God says, whoa, hang on. Get your own dirt. In case you guys didn't understand, that was Adam and Eve was made, well, Adam was made from the dirt. God breathed life, he existed. The point is, I don't want you to ever hold back, because God is saying, I've given you everything. I've called you with a purpose. I don't want you to go halfway and be like, but sorry, I need to be humble. No. You need to stand and you need to say, yes, this is my call, this is my purpose, I'm going to go for it, and I don't care what happens. The reason is, we think, I have to hide this, because now all of you see that you don't have a flame. But the truth is, if I let my light shine, and I do what it is I'm called to do, I can ignite somebody else. And this light can spread. So I want you to go ahead and light this one. And can you light the people behind you? Now please don't burn your hair or your clothes or anything. I want you to hold it carefully for a little while. Did you see how fast the back row got lit? I didn't have to do all of that. I only lit 2 people in this room, and 6 of you got lit in a matter of seconds. When you live to the fullness of your call, and you believe that the reason you're capable of doing it is because God has given you breath, so you're not thinking that you're all that and a bag of chips, then what happens is, you get to ignite people around you. Fire has a purpose. It would be really dumb if the lights were off and I tried to cover this and hide it. Because 1, I'm going to burn myself, and 2, because the purpose of it, in that case, is to light the way. Now, if I put this into a barbecue and I started a flame and I cooked my dinner on it, I could have sustenance. Well, there are going to be times, believe me, there are going to be times where just having a good idea is not going to be enough. Where having more than an idea, having a flame that can actually sustain you, having a passion that can sustain you, is going to be the only way that you will survive. So, let your light shine. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid. Just be bold and go for it. So, at some point, I'll come back to that. You're not going to make it if you're running on some cylinders. So, if you're driving a Lamborghini that is made with 12 cylinders and you're running 3 cylinders, what's going to happen is the car is going to demand the use of 12 cylinders. And sooner or later, that pressure that's being applied to those 3 cylinders is going to make it blow. So if you are feeling lack, if you are walking around and you feel like, if you feel empty inside and you're like, I'm going to reach my purpose because then I'll feel like somebody, then I'll feel like I've accomplished something, and then I can feel whole and healed. it's not going to work. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I want you to be totally healed and ready to go. I'm not saying that you have to be perfect before you can step out in this giant leap and say, I'm going to go for my destiny. But you have to know that you can't go if you are broken. And I'm talking about really broken. And here's the reason. If you built a building and you had large foundation pillars, my friend is the guy creating the rail. And he said to me that they dig down 150 feet on most of those pylons. And they're pouring concrete 150 feet into the ground, which is crazy because we're on an island. I don't know how they don't have water. Anyway, but after they pour the concrete for these super deep pillars, they dig 2 separate holes down the side and they drop these 2 little thick things that communicate with each other, and they're like x-rays. And so what happens is it x-rays the concrete the whole way through, and it looks for even the slightest hole, because the slightest hole can cause the whole pillar to crack, and then the whole thing falls down because then the whole rail is done. Well, in our lives, if there are pillars that are the foundation of our lives, if there are giant air pockets in that concrete, if you put weight on, then it's going to crack it. Now, if you think that if you get to a place with these holes in your pillars and you're like, look, I'm surviving, one of 2 things. 1, you're about to fall, or 2, you haven't actually reached your full potential, because your purpose is so big that there's no way it will stand on broken pillars. And if you don't believe me, then we have a different conversation we need to have, because every person that's in this room and every person that I've ever met, the call in their lives is far too great to be denied, to be held back on, and to not be fought for. The other problem is, if you don't have fullness and wholeness in what it is that you're doing, then really you're only giving a part of yourself to the people around you. You're only giving a part of yourself to the purpose, the call, the plan that is set before you. And I mean, let's be real. How many times have you sat with somebody and you know that they're only half in that conversation? You know, like when they're texting on their phone or something, or they're like looking around because they have something else that they want to be doing. It kind of sucks, like knowing that the person is not actually there with you. The same thing happens if you're going for your destiny, but you're only halfway in it. The people that you're interacting with, they're going to notice, they're going to feel it, they're going to experience it, and it's going to cause damage. So, the next thing is, I know it says purpose again, but I really want to get this across to you guys. Purpose is not just your job. You know, it's not like, oh, I have to do this because, you know, Danny said that I have a purpose, and so I'm going to just fulfill it, you know. No. If you think about it like that, I promise you're not going to make it. Because if your attitude is, purpose is my work, so I got to do it, then by the time the first storm hits, it's going to take you out. By the time the first hardship or setback comes, you're not going to go for it anymore. It's a really interesting thing that if you can tell somebody once that they failed and they believe you, then they will set the next time that they are thinking about trying, they're going to say, no, I already failed, before they even walk out. So, with that, if you are thinking of this as a job, if you're thinking of it, oh, it's what I have to do, then it's not going to work out. But one of the things about it, though, is it's going to take a huge amount of sacrifice. But you get to experience the hope that you bring to other people. So when you fulfill your destiny and you impact lives of those around you, the thing that you're doing to them, or the thing that you're doing for them, has to go through you first. So in other words, if you're bringing hope, if you're bringing joy, if you're bringing laughter, if you're helping people find a place to live and getting them food or whatever it is, and you bring hope to them, you get to experience it yourself. So one day, as we all do, we will be done on this earth. And the question that I want to ask you guys as I throw stuff around here is, what kind of a difference do you want to make? See, there's different types of passions. There's those that are long-lasting. There are those that, one of the things that stresses me is when people are like, I want to do this. I want to go to this place. Oh, I want to go to this place. They have a new mission field every day. They have a new purpose every day. And it kind of drives me nuts because it looks to me like this. It's not real. It's gone in an instant and it leaves nothing behind, supposedly. Sorry. I'm going to say the wind blew for my video. And so I want you guys to blow out your candles. If you live your life with real purpose, if you live your life truly going after what it is that you want, what it is that you believe you're called to do, you cannot leave this earth unchanged. You may not make it all the way to where it is you're hoping to go, but the world will not stay the same. There's a story I want to share with you before we go for some questions and some interaction time. There's a man, he's a farmer, and he has this beautiful bamboo garden, and one particular piece of bamboo in his garden is really, really tall, and it's so majestic. It's giant, it's got this giant base, and it seems like it stretches into forever. And he walks up to that piece of bamboo and he says, "Bamboo, bamboo, I need you for something." And the bamboo looks down and he says, "Yes, master, whatever you need." And he said, and the farmer says, "Bamboo, bamboo, to use you, I'm going to have to cut you down." And the bamboo says, "No, you can't cut me down. Look at me, I'm the tallest shoot here." And the master says, "If I don't cut you down, I can't use you." The bamboo says, "All right, master, you can cut me down." So the farmer sadly chops that piece of bamboo down and he takes it to his shop and he says, "Bamboo, bamboo, if I'm going to use you, I need to cut you in half and I need to cut out your heart." And the bamboo says, "But master, I was so majestic and giant. Everybody wanted to see me. And now you're gonna cut me in half and cut out my heart?" And the master says, "If you don't let me do this, I can't use you." And the bamboo says, "Okay. If you need to, then do it." So the farmer takes it. He slices the bamboo all the way down. He splits it open and he takes it and he cuts out the heart of it, which is the dividers in the bamboo. And then he takes the bamboo and he lines it up from the stream. And because it was so long, it stretched all the way out to his pastures. And you see, the bamboo was beautiful to look at, but it had no purpose. But after great sacrifice, it ended up bringing life to everyone around it. I can't pretend that there's no sacrifice involved in this life. I can't pretend that it's going to be easy. It's not. The reality of it is there's so much brokenness, there's so much need in this world that there's no way it's going to just happen. There's no way it's going to happen on its own. And even with you, it's going to take more work than you probably could possibly imagine. And in fact, I would tell you this, that if you knew right now what it's going to take, there's no way you would walk out this door saying, "I'm going to do it." Because the sacrifice involved is going to take more than you could possibly dream. In the story, the bamboo has its wooden heart cut out. There's going to be moments where you're going to find betrayal. There's going to be moments where you love somebody because of the work that you're doing or because of the effort that you're putting out, and they're maybe they'll die, maybe they'll move on, maybe they'll do something else. Maybe if your call is to reach people that are drug addicts, they might, or you might love them. You might serve them for a year, get to know them really well, and then they fall back into where they were before. And you have to watch them go back knowing that you can't save them. And I can tell you it's the same thing as having your heart cut out. It's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. Because, yes, this bamboo shoot now is dead on the ground. But it will forever bring life to that which is in the pasture. So, I want you to know that although it's going to be difficult, it's not going to be impossible. Although it's going to be hard, it's going to be absolutely worth it. So with that, I want to give a few minutes, and I want you to come up with the hardest questions that you can think of about what I just shared, maybe how it relates to your life. And I want you, I want you to just shoot the questions at me. And then after, I want to do a little, kind of like a little activity. So, anybody have any questions? What's up, John?
How did you figure out what your purpose was?
So, that's a really good question. One of the ways that I figured out what my purpose was I found out, I started with what am I good at? What are some of my strengths? What are things that people recognized in me as just what I like to call my natural bend? So the things that I just kind of naturally gravitate towards. So I'm an executive coach by trade. And I find that in whatever I'm doing, whether it be sitting in Surfer's Coffee and a person walks up to me and sits down at my table because they want prayer, and I find myself moving towards coaching with them after I pray for them. So I always have a natural bend towards things. The next thing is I find out what other people say. And these are people that I trust. Like, I don't go around to people that I don't trust because I don't want their opinion. I don't care. I want people that trust me, or that I trust, that I have a relationship with. And then definitely a lot of prayer. And then the next thing is you just try. And try with an open heart and in a safe place. Open heart because probably, if we're being real, the first time you try it, even your greatest call, you might fall on your face. But being able to press for that, being able to say, hey, now that you guys have heard this, how do you feel about my wanting to, whatever it is, like singing for somebody? And it's like, how do you feel about my voice? And your honest friends will be like, it's okay. I feel like if you had lessons, maybe it's good. Or, they'll be like, actually, I had no idea you could sing like that. So that's the way I like to think of as a starting point on how I move to a direction. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You talked about having holes in your foundation. What are some tools that you can use to fill those holes?
That's a good question. So there's a lot of different things, and it really depends on the hole. So, for example, I myself had issues with just unhealthy relationships and finding just unhealthy ways of filling that hole. Excuse me. And so what I had to do was figure out what was the root of the hole and then find a healthy way to fill it. And so for me, the way that happened was with a ministry called Celebrate Recovery. That's the first thing. It was also through a book and ministry called Life's Healing Choices. And it was also through seeing a counselor and probably a whole bunch of other things, having a really great support network. Believe me, I have gone through great struggles, and I don't stand here because I was born into this world great and perfect and all this stuff. I stand here because I've walked through the fire, and I've walked through, I had built this great monument, and like this little bitty feather started falling through the air, and it caused a gust of wind big enough to knock down my fake little monument because it was all fake, who I had pretended to be. And so when I tell you that wholeness is a requirement to reach your destiny, I'm not saying that because it sounds good. I'm not saying that because I read it in a book. I'm saying that, I mean, I have read it, but I'm saying that because I lived it. And things like Celebrate Recovery, or if you gotta go find a therapist, go find a therapist. If it's so bad that you gotta find a psychiatrist and you gotta get some medication so you can walk through whatever it is, do it. Whatever it takes. Find wholeness, because people out there need you whole, because they need you to fulfill your destiny. It's kind of like the children that we saw in the beginning of that video. They can't do anything to fix their situation. They're stuck. I mean, this is the hand that was dealt to them. And I believe that God has allowed that to happen because it gives us the opportunity to exercise why we need to be whole and how we need to pursue our destiny and our call. Any other questions?
You talk about the clipboard being love, and so everything starts with that. What does that look like? What do you go a little deeper into that?
Sure. I'm just laughing because Sarah was sitting there like, I was just gonna ask. So, you know, that for me, it's a challenging thing because one, as you've lived in this world for a while, you know that there are people that are not easy to love. Sometimes your own family. And the fact is, it takes love to be able to show love. You know, if I have my Wendy's drink there that has iced tea and lemonade in there. If I drink it, I'm gonna drink iced tea and lemonade. It's not gonna be Diet Coke all of a sudden. It's not gonna be Sprite all of a sudden, because I put iced tea and I put lemonade in there. The same thing goes for our lives. If we fill it with garbage, if we fill it with junk, the first things first is we have no love to give. So you need to make sure one thing that I'll talk about a lot in coaching people is setting up a support team. If you don't have a good support team, you're not going to make it because you're going to get tired. It's just like any physical activity. You're going to get tired. If you don't have somebody cheering you on, you need to give up. Having people that can show you love in a healthy and an appropriate way, as well as seeking God for your love, is the way that you can fill yourself with love. So that's number one. That's the clipboard on how it works, and how does it translate to actually experiencing other people. You know, whether or not you believe in God, whether or not you read the Bible or not, the definition for love in the book of Corinthians is very clear, and it's very interesting and powerful to me, because it's not what we as 21st century people think of as love. You know, we think love is, this lovey-dovey emotion. But no. In this passage, it says love is a choice. And, it says love is patient, it's kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it does not keep a record of wrongs. It always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres. So one of the ways that I do it is, as a barometer, I'll look at that passage and I will replace the word love with Danny. The reason I do that is because the Bible says God is love, and so I replace the word love with God. And then when I go back through it again, because I'm supposed to be like God, that's the way I measure it. I never reach it, but I try. So the question for me is, when dealing with Isabel, am I kind to her? Am I patient with her? Do I keep a record of wrongs with her? When I talk to John, am I thinking, what's his real motive? Or am I trusting the relationship that I've started to build with him? And that is how I feel like I can best measure love, is if I look at those words of patience, kindness, long-suffering, or it's the same word. Am I treating the people that I'm interacting with on this road with those thoughts in mind, with those emotions, with those choices, because it's difficult. So let's say, because it's pretty, this is the low-hanging fruit. Let's say that you're destined to create a homeless shelter. If you create this big, beautiful shelter and you have lots of beds and create a very good program, but every time a homeless person walks in the door, you're like, hey, how's it going? Go to the front desk, fill the paperwork. Then you're not actually changing things. But if you choose to be kind, you don't have to, like, if you have a really difficult time, you don't have to walk up to them and hug them. I mean, it'd be great if you could, but, maybe wait till after you send them to the shower. You can still walk up to them and shake their hand, look them in the eye, and treat them with honor and respect. On this road to reaching your destiny, you're going to find times where you're going to encounter great difficulty. And what I mean is, the Bible says that you should honor one another. It says you should honor your parents. You should honor those around you. It doesn't say that you should listen to them. What does that mean, though? The word honor means to respect. The word honor means to show reverence to. The word honor does not mean that what you say, I'm going to agree with. So, in that sense, if your mother said something to you growing up that was really horrible and mean, you don't have to agree with her. You don't have to be like, yes, I'm ugly in that outfit, or whatever it is. If a coworker or even a boss is like, hey, you're an idiot, you don't have to agree. You can honor them. You can still be respectful by not punching them in the face, but you don't have to agree with your boss. So that's something that unfortunately, I think as children we're not taught, that we don't actually have to agree with what people say about us. Because when a bully says something mean about us, we're like, wow, you said it about me, it must be true. And that is one of the things that causes holes in your foundation, is lies about you. And so by recognizing that honoring is what you have to do, not agreeing with, not listening to. Of course, if your parents are giving you instructions or your boss is giving you instructions, please do it. I don't want to get in trouble from your boss and be like, hey, why'd you say not to listen to me? Anyway, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions? Got time for maybe like one more question. Okay. So what I want to do is, since there are 7 of us, I'm going to be number 8. I want to split into pairs really quick, and I want you, if you feel like you kind of have an idea of what it is that you're called to do, I want you to share that with the person next to you. And if you don't, I want you, maybe, everybody kind of knows each other a little bit. I want you to ask the other person, what do you see in me? And if you can't, if you don't know each other well enough from an experiential perspective, say something encouraging or something affirming about something that you've witnessed so far in the time that you guys have known each other. Yeah. So I want to take maybe like 5 minutes to do that. I'm gonna turn my mic silent, and then so I think 2, 2, 2, and then I'll come to vitamin. And yeah, just take like 5 minutes. One of you express what it is that you think is your purpose or your destiny, and then share the other one. Jessica. Okay, so tell me, what do you think is your call?
So, make things good around here, make vehicles run, get shots on, hopefully right smooth, air conditioner work, all that kind of stuff. so that people come here and want to experience God. Think about it. It's a big job, but I think it's so necessary that the other ministries can do that job.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I think you're
Internship.
that's good.
Check back.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is
So,
kind
yeah,
of like
to go sort of
but I feel like that's true. And
Is
I
that
feel like
what you need before you get here?
I mean, the Bible is virtual mandate. You know, so to me, like, there's certain things that I'm like, oh, I think this is my call. I'm like, hey, does it, you know, but because you feel like your call is what I'm supposed to do in the first place, I'm like, I'm not doubting that just that the has what you want to do. And then as far as the missions,
Each time was very important to you. It's just
it does say,
a natural fit for me for love.
so let's see. That's probably also very good. And I think I'm excited to hear about where
I don't know I do enjoy teaching, but I don't know
because there's generally speaking, there's always generally speaking, just they have a way with people when they go around the world, they find out that you can it's just like all of a sudden. And then like they just want to interact, especially because of those things. Like it could be more. Actually, yeah, let's talk about let's do this. So that's really cool. Yeah, so my call
those were like two things that like I think I went to college because I like to start not just what I want to do, but like become a game for what I intend like where I see myself doing. And so with all those things, they also like I can extrapolate them to a lot of so many of the things that I do in my life. Like I would refer to this as leadership.
Yeah,
Like
I heard this story.
it's really types of categories.
It was about this and you might have heard of this guy. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, it's like, can't say but there's another thing. And like, I just read and you know, it's I'm sure you still take people we try to like, there's something
crazy dreamer. And right now they're like looking at acquiring some property in Colorado and actually like starting a nonprofit for rituals. And so basically
they told me
halfway for people who all like looking to reset drug addicts and they would come and work really hard and like whatever like the industry, whatever like
as soon as I understood
doing that like yeah, of course part-time I was like the other day and they had teachings and they had 5 times
about 2 minutes, guys. Okay. And so I just
so
when I first
basically
talking
talking
like
angel funding
I was just kind of saying
that are Christian-based are really passionate about this stuff. So
and for me, as a coach, I feel like I'm still because somebody's
they were telling me that like this organization that's really interested in developing not just a treat center, but like a model for so I don't know like It's super vague right now. It's not much. It's like, yeah, there's this dream of totally. So, and it was super encouraging to hear that because I just realized like living so much of like yeah.
See what society
Right. Oh yeah. So Ethan has always had this whole dream to just create like a business together. So I was thinking back to one of the specifics, like like you're saying to like psychology. But yeah, I was
that's like good part. Okay, yeah. No, it's a very real thing. Yeah, let's definitely talk about it.
my dad's an
stories with
yeah, exactly. Like I just started an organization or something like that as well. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I'm really excited.
All right. Well, before I close, I want to say, have you guys ever tried to hold a flashlight at the sun? Why not? It doesn't do anything, right? If you're worried that you're going to outshine God, it's the same thing. So don't hold back, because there's truly people out there that need you. One of my best friends, I was sharing this story with somebody, it was yesterday. I was going through the crumble of my life that I was talking about earlier, and I had literally lost everything. And one of my best friends, we met when I was like 10 years old, which I think she was 11, and she told me, because I said, I'm done, there's nothing left for me. And she was like, well, you have to hope. And I was like, what am I going to hope in? Because I didn't know God. I didn't have a job anymore. I didn't have my career that I had been starting, that I had essentially started when I was 4. Like, it was gone. And my friend, she was like, you have to hope. I'm like, I can't. And she said, life is just too hard if you don't have hope in something. And you know, at that time, my hope ended up being my friend. She just basically showed me God's love when I had no idea who God was. And in the moments where it got really dark and I wanted to just end life, I just couldn't, because there was always this tiny little annoying seed in my heart that just said, no, you can't. I'm like, but there's nothing left. And this little bitty voice was like, yes, there is. I was like, I don't know what it is. And it said, doesn't matter, it's there. And so when I finally was able to walk out of it and find other things that were more substantial to lean on, I was able to make it, and I'm able to stand here today. And I get to do what I get to do because of the fact that somebody lived out their destiny. Again, I'm not saying that, it sounds weird when you say it like that. I'm not trying to say that I was this woman's destiny. But as she walked out the call on her life, she's not perfect now, she's not 100% healed now. But she still was walking towards what it was she felt called to do. And because of that, I interacted with her. And because of that interaction, I'm still here today. You never know how massively important the simple call on your life, or the major one, can impact those around you. So be bold, be courageous, be fiery. Don't let your flame die, and go ignite those around you. So I want to say thank you. If there's any other questions, you can all have my email if you don't have it already. Please feel free to call me or anything. And thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. And I hope you guys have a good night.